right on 8 o'clock on the dot. No one said we weren't prompt. So we're going to get started here. Thank you so much for attending the State of the Town, hosted by the Chamber of Commerce here in Scituate. And the Chamber used to host this event year to year, but I think probably during pandemic times it stopped, and we really had an interest and some people requesting that we start this up again, so that's why we are here today. So we appreciate everyone's involvement and attendance. Just to point out a few chamber members that are here. We have some in the front row here, Matt Rollo, Patrick O'Brien. We have Chrissy Donahue here, Stephanie Holleran, and Christina Carreri, my co-president, and Shelley Swanson in the back. Yeah, and Karen Canfield here has been helping a lot with some admin duties for the Chamber. And my name is Jen Palmer, co-president with Christina of the Chamber of Commerce. And we're trying to initiate some great things this year. Matt's working hard on Heritage Days, and we have the Candidates Forum for the upcoming election next Thursday night. So we hope to see a lot of the same faces there. That will be at the Performing Arts Center up at the Scituate High School. That's a night event, so that starts at 7 o'clock a week from tomorrow, so Thursday night, heading into the election time period. So we also wanted to thank Morse Engineering and Greg Morris for hosting the breakfast treats. Greg's over there. Thank you for that. And I have to give Greg credit. He actually was one of the people who had mentioned this event, saying it would be a great idea to start this up again, and even gave me some prompts and some suggested topics, which I've shared with our guests here today. So that was a great thing. So thank you, Greg. And we encourage everyone to just reach out to the Chamber if you have ideas of events and things that you want to initiate. Obviously, we're all ears, and we're happy to put events like this together. We also wanted to thank Patrick Kearney for being here in the back, our state rep. So always happy to have him here. And we have this being covered by Scituate Community Television with our friend Seth over here. So if you want to get on camera, just walk this way. But again, really happy to be here, really excited. The focus of today is really about what the town is doing and how it impacts businesses. So obviously there's so many topics to cover with the town, but this event today is really trying to focus on any initiatives, efforts, things that are happening in the town that impact local businesses, business owners. That's really the focus of today. We encourage questions, discussion. There's no real formal format to this, so we're just going to let our guests kind of take the lead. And so who we have today as our guests, the Town Administrator, I've heard about 8 years or so, is that correct? Jim Boudreau over here. Happy to have him here today leading the way. And then our Select Board Chair, Andrew Goodrich, who I know actually is a fellow sports dad in town and Wampatuck dad, but in this capacity he's here as the Select Board Chair. Been on the Select Board about 4 years?
It'll be 5 now.
Okay, great. And I'm sorry, another guest?
Susan Harrison.
Susan,
Vice Chair Select Board.
Vice Chair of the Select Board. Great, thank you so much for being here. So again, nothing super formal. We're just going to have them, if they have anything they want to start off by saying, they can start, and then we'll just start with questions, and I'm here to help facilitate however needed. But I'm just going to hand it off to them.
Oh, wait, before you do.
Yes. You want to say something about Heritage Days? Okay, sorry. One quick note about Heritage Days from Matt.
Thank you. Let's thank Jen for helping putting this together. More events like this as a chamber. So, yeah, selfless plug. I'm the director of Heritage Days this year, and so we have an exciting new Heritage Days coming up, and I just wanted to, plug that and tell you it's on its way. We're having vendors back in the street. We're having a bigger beer garden, more music, a lot of family events, and so this event has been going on for 56 years. It's probably the largest free event, probably in Massachusetts like that. It doesn't happen without vendor paying for their spots, but also the sponsors. The sponsors are a big deal. They fund this thing. So I'm here to let you know there's sponsor sheets up there, and if you know anyone that can sponsor, we have a lot of great sponsored programs to help showcase your business at this big event. Is anywhere from, depending on the weather, 10 to 30,000 people that show up. So it's a fantastic event. All my friends are they're so excited about it. So please support it. So. And if you have any questions afterwards about it, feel free to tap me on the shoulder. Okay? Thank you.
Reach out to Matt with any questions about Heritage Days. We also do, just shameless plug for the Chamber, we have some QR codes. If you want to take a picture, anyone's interested in joining the Chamber, we have information about that. So let's take it away. Let's get started. Event is scheduled for 8 to 9 a.m. We know everyone has the day to get started after that, so let's just dive into topics.
Perfect. Because it's 2025 and we're at the quarter century mark, I think the past is going to kind of reflect the future. So here's a few facts people should probably know. 25 years ago, average house was $460,000 in Scituate. The average home sale now, this year, will hit $980,000. The average age in someone in Scituate 25 years ago was 44. This year, the average age of the resident of someone in Scituate is 66. We have 190 fewer students in their school system. Voc Tech, because of the need and demand, has an acceptance rate of around 60%. To put that in perspective, if you have a student, they have a better chance of getting into Rutgers or Virginia Tech than they do at South Shore Voc Tech because of the need. When we look around, also because of COVID and things that have happened, state data says between 35 to 40% of our residents work from home. So when you drive by, 1 out of every 3 homes is actually an office. It's a business. Let me tell you, on mine, 4 out of the 6 houses on our street, we have people working from home. What does that mean? It means the demands of the town, number one, folks are more affluent, they're staying here, they're using our services more, and they're around a whole heck of a lot more. And we have to think about what that means. And within the older population, we have different demands on things like first responders and the needs for EMTs and police. That's the past. What's the forecast? The forecast, people in the business community need to know this, it is cloudy. The state, for the past 5 years, for local aid for our town has been under 3%. A fire hydrant alone has tripled in cost. Water pipes have doubled. Electricity costs over 40%. Heating costs over 25%. And the average permit for us to get anything done is 2 years. So when we were, even for a friendly bee, for Old Gates, we were told 2 years. If you want to get sewer in North Scituate, state said, sure, we'll help you out, come back in 2 years. It is unbelievable how long things are taking. Now, even on the federal side, now someone who likes to consider himself a radical moderate, it doesn't matter if it's on the state side or on the federal side, the town is getting squeezed. When we look for contracts, for tariffs, and also the lead time, time is money. And things are taking a lot of time, and we have uncertainty on those levels. But Scituate, out of any town that I know, knows how to handle a storm. And we might be battered, but I know we're going to come out of this. But I do have a challenge for all of you. In my 5 years on the board, I have received less than, and I went back to count, less than 60 emails from residents. 60. That tells you one of two things. Either number one, we're doing a fabulous job, or two, which is much more scary to me, is that people don't respond because they don't think that we're going to listen, or that we don't care, or we don't know how to help them, and that frightens me a lot more. And we have no newspaper in town, and I will tell you right now, even in my day job, I do communications, but there is no way that those of us on the board can do the job and then self-report on the job and get it out. It doesn't work that way. It functionally will never work properly. And we need better ways for us to communicate to each other and to talk to each other, so please talk to us. And please communicate to us so we know what those needs are. Because that's the only way for us to kind of go forward. And with that, want to hear from you and hear what some of these questions really are. Jim? Is there
I'll
anything?
turn it over to the vice chair first, if she has any.
Make sure we
I do it.
doing you to sit up here.
Yeah, I'll go after you.
I'll have 60 emails from residents before I get back to them. So the board's doing a great job. Me, on the other hand, it's a little shaky. But what I try to tell my department heads is, people reach out to you, they deserve an answer. Sometimes the answer's gonna be no, but they do deserve an answer. Chamber had asked us to touch on a couple things, so I'll just touch on a couple things. There's a lot going on in town, as you can see out the window. For those of you with boats, they're scheduled to pave today. I went over to talk to the foreman this morning. He wasn't there yet, but he had told me before, once the paving's down, we can talk about opening the boat ramp. So hopefully, sooner rather than later, they'll get paving down, we'll get the boat ramp open. You'll still, Mr. Treasurer, sorry, you'll still be inconvenienced with the gas line work. It's gonna be going for a little while. We have 2 seawall jobs going on right now, down on Oceanside, so we're busy. Question about North Scituate sewer, when, where, how? By this time next year, we should be at 90% design for the sewer project. We'll be ready to go to bid for construction. We're in the process of doing what's called I&I, inflow and infiltration, in our sewer system, getting the groundwater and the rainwater out, because we need to create enough capacity in our plant to put North Scituate in. A big part of that will be our new water treatment plant. The current water treatment plant discharges 40 to 50,000 gallons a day to the sewer plant. The new water treatment plant will discharge 0 water to the new to the sewage treatment plant, so we'll create a bunch of capacity. Need about 125,000 gallons a day from North Scituate at build-up. Right now there are 4 projects permitted, 3 on Country Way, 2 housing projects, and in between is the SAIL project. That's a project for people with disabilities who are over 22 to have a place to live, work, and learn about what they need. It's going to be a great project. The town has helped out with our CPC money. Salon Taj, if you know what that is in North Scituate, that is permitted for, I want to say, about 35 units.
25.
25, thank you. Thank you, Planning Board. We have permitted, and we will have a beer garden on the site of the old Jamie's this summer. And the owner of that has plans to develop that when storage comes. Glenn Wilder has plans to develop Wilder Brothers. The garage will stay. He's going to rebuild the garage, don't worry. But he has plans for that for mixed use. So once storage comes to North Scituate, a lot's going to happen. But it's going to be about another year to finish the design, where the pumping stations are going to go. We're also still in conversations with Cohasset and Hull on regional sewer. Hull has capacity. We need it. Cohasset needs it. Those conversations have been going on for more than 8 years. I'll be honest, they're not going well. Cohasset is the cork in the bottle. They just keep, to me it's simple. I just tell Cohasset, send your sewage to Hull where it belongs. Doesn't that make sense? And it's just one thing after another. But sewer's coming to North Scituate with or without regional sewer. We're going to figure out a way we're going to get it done. And that's probably the board's top priority right now for me to keep working on. The other top priority, I guess, on my plate is the old gates. The old Gates School has been empty for 10 years now. The only thing in it is the food pantry. It costs us over $100,000 a year to heat it, electricity. It needs capital work. People have talked about putting a town hall in there. If I asked anybody who thinks the old gate should be a town hall, all gonna raise your hands. Great idea, right? How many people want to pay $50 to $60 million to put the town hall in the old gates? No hands go up, right? You have the water treatment plant coming, you have the new school coming. The board has just made a decision. We're not going to ask the taxpayers for that. So we've got out to an RFP. We have a company called the Grantham Group. They built the senior housing at Central Park a couple of years ago. They have a proposal to put housing on the site. Senior housing, low income restricted. It melds perfectly with what we're doing there with recreation and the senior center. So the board went over the development agreement last night. We'll get that executed, and there'll be a lot of public hearings on that. But hopefully we will find a repurpose for that site and bring it back to life and shut ourselves of maintaining a building that nobody's in. Zoning changes was one of them. The big one probably for business is the new Greenbush and North Scituate MBTA 3A compliant zoning. Allows for 15 units per acre by right, mixed use. The original legislation did not allow mixed use, and Scituate was on the forefront with Representative Candy of pushing back on that. We tried to explain to the state, what's the point of building apartments next to a train station? They take the train to work, they take the train home, they get back, they get in their cars, and they have to drive to get something. You have to allow mixed use. So we do allow mixed use. The town has asked the governor actually to file legislation to give us more liquor licenses because we're at our max. So we have some for businesses when they want to go in there. I talked to the Lieutenant Governor yesterday, they're going to file for 4. We have 3 ready to go, and they're going to give us another one. So we're trying to bring all this stuff together so when SOAR comes, we're ready to go. But I think the zoning is going to be very interesting. North Scituate has to have SOAR. There's no place for these businesses to put their effluent, so once SOAR comes. I think once we put a shovel in the ground, once people actually believe we're going to do it, they see us digging, I think a lot of those businesses will start filing to redo their businesses. Harbor projects, if you go online, Seth did a very nice job putting on the Waterways Commission last night, showing preliminary designs for a new harbor master building. It looks enormous. Okay, before you go on, it looks enormous. It's only a 2-story building, but it's 18 feet off the ground. So it looks just giant. It would be the Harbor Master's Office, the Coast Guard, and I think probably the most important thing for businesses. The biggest complaint I get about the harbor is there are no public bathrooms in the harbor. So when you look at it, the Coast Guard building's over here, the Harbor Master's here, and in the middle, public restrooms for the harbor. So we think that's huge. Handicap accessible. Still working on the cost, but the harbor master, that would be paid out of waterways fees, and we're very eligible for grants from the Seaport Economic Council. Because we're 3A compliant, that's the MBTA law, we're eligible for those grants. A lot of the towns that we compete with for those grants are not 3A compliant. So more money for us, right? That's the way I look at it, more money for us. Traffic. I got a text from the chairman last night before the meeting, I'm stuck in traffic. I'll be there as quickly as I can. The issue with traffic, and again, Ann Burbine's here, when someone comes in and wants to put up a building, they do a traffic impact of their building. The building's not gonna have any traffic impact, right? What we don't do is, what's gonna happen when Greenbush is built out? What's going to happen with North Scituate is built out. So I'm working with the town planner right now to put together an RFP to get a traffic engineer to come in and say, okay, when you build all the units, what's it going to look like? What's the town going to have to do? What changes are we going to have to make to try to address those issues? I know Dunkin' Donuts is a pain in the morning. I always walk in because the drive-through line's too big. So that's something we want to look at, and again, I'm working with the town planner to just take a look at the whole district. What's going to happen when we build another 30 units? Just Greenbush alone, the medical center, there's a building that's permitted. The space in between the burger bar and the train station, there's a mixed-use development that's permitted that hasn't started yet. And where Celtic Paws is permitted. It hasn't been built yet. About 100 units, would you say, altogether? And
Excuse me?
about 100 units permanent, not built down in Greenbush right now,
That's
roughly?
right. And there's another thing that's interesting, since COVID or whatever, if you have a permit and it's toward the end of it, you get it for another 2 years. It's automatically continued.
So if you think a lot of the delay there is when they started the permitting process, interest rates were 2-3%, now they're getting ready to build, interest rates are 6-7%, and the numbers aren't working, so. But we do expect to see a lot of building going on down there in the near future. The last one I'll touch on, the water treatment plant. Water treatment plant is on 3A. It's on schedule. It's on budget right now. The water treatment plant is going to do so much for the water quality, for water pressure, and as I said before, it's going to help the sewer system by taking that water out. Right now, when we get brown water, some of it's the pipes, some of it's for 40 years, the town's been pumping water from a well that has high iron and manganese into the reservoir. When the reservoir gets low and warms up, that iron and manganese goes out of suspension. Surface water treatment plants don't treat for iron and manganese because there's no iron and manganese in surface water. So that brown water goes right through the plant and out into the system. The new plant will treat for that. We have new PFAS limits. PFAS are the forever chemicals. Right now, they're 20 parts per trillion. We are compliant. The new standards are 4 parts per trillion. So that's 4 grains of sand on Peggotty Beach, basically what we're talking about. The new plant will treat for that. And we have a project right now where we are putting some of our wells that are compliant but might be kind of on the edge of the new standards. Those will be pumped to the new treatment plant so we can treat them for PFAS and make sure that all our wells are compliant. Last big project, hasn't started yet, groundbreaking this fall, is the new Hadley Cushing School. That'll be replacing the current Hadley and Cushing. Both those schools will come down. The board talked last night about a committee to look at what we're going to do with the old Cushing. The project will tear the old Cushing down, level it off, plant grass, and then we got to figure out exactly what the people want to do with that. I don't think we're going to put a hockey rink there. Hockey players, sorry, I don't see that happening, a pool or a hockey rink. But, different conversations about finding a way maybe to accommodate the food pantry there, fields, things like that. So I think probably the next meeting, the board will be forming a committee, looking for people to come and volunteer and listen and tell us what they think we should put at the old Cushing. But we don't get a piece of property like that that we can just kind of do something with a lot. We just don't have a lot of property, so that'll be interesting going forward. I think I hit on everything I wanted to hit on. I'm here for questions. I'll stay as long as you want, because I'm at work, so it's fine.
How about this property?
This property, Pier 44.
Yes, that's what.
As you can see, the building's not in bad shape, but it is getting to the point where it's going to need a lot of work. The bathrooms aren't very good. Every time we have a king tide, the water comes right in that back door. If we have a storm, it does get water. To put money into fixing it means it has to go up, which is 16 feet for this property. That's just going to be expensive for a building that doesn't get a lot of use. So the decision was made that this building will come down and a park will be here. And that's in the permitting process. There'll be seating, there'll be a boardwalk, there'll be, I think they're gonna have a pier, aren't they?
Right,
Yeah.
small pier.
There'll be a pier, and then we're having discussions about what we're gonna do again for bathroom facilities. Probably will be a portable bathroom, because a permanent bathroom have to be 16 feet up, right? So the handicap ramp would start at the stand at Scituate Harbor.
But the good ones that you get at a wedding.
Yeah, so we'll get,
Plastic.
Egypt Beach this summer, we're gonna have a really nice portable bathroom, not a porta potty, but a bathroom. The reason we picked Egypt, there's a sewer pumping station there, so we can get their water and electricity. We don't have to do any utility work, so we can just kind of back it in and plug it in. And we'll see what happens. That was one of Andrew's goals and Susan's goals, to try to replace these porta potties. So we're gonna do it this summer. See what happens. Really the big issue is how do you keep them clean. I was talking to some people earlier. The porta potties, the guy comes out, he's got a hose, he goes, porta potties clean. You can't do those, obviously, in a nice bathroom. So we'll see what happens, but that's kind of the idea here, that we would have a portable bathroom that would be on the site, and then when the winter came, we would pull it out of here, so that it wouldn't get ruined during storms. But the information for this is online. If you want, we can send a link to the chamber can share it. Really, a really nice design with a little pavilion, some parking, but a lot of walking paths, benches, and again, a boardwalk, a pier, so people can enjoy the harbor. It's really one of the last open places that we have on the harbor that we can do something with. So, great building, again, doesn't get a lot of use. If you bring it up, just again, gets too expensive. So, the idea is we're gonna put a nice park here. I mean, if you go upstairs, so I wanted to put my office, it's absolutely gorgeous, but there's no air conditioning, get too hot in the summer.
What is the target timeline for this project?
A year ago, as Andrew said, the permitting process with the state, I don't know if you know, Andrew's on the record, Channel 5 occasionally had a great line that the governor's office hired the sloth from Zootopia to do permitting. It takes so long. We have to get what's called a Chapter 91 permit because we're working in the water. That takes forever. We have to do some work on the seawalls. We've been trying to permit work on Third Cliff to fix seawalls. since 2012, and we don't have the permit yet.
Wow.
So I think this will be a little quicker, but the permitting is just, and it's an alphabet soup, right? You got to coastal zone management, CZM, DEP, EPA, fisheries, Army Corps. And then you think you're done at some other agency, and says, ooh, what about me? And they tell you to do something that the other ones won't let you do, and then you're starting all over
Oh,
again.
my.
Greg's smiling because he knows exactly what I'm talking about. So, you know, the timeline, hopefully we want to be looking for funding next year at town meeting, but it's all going to depend on the permitting, and that's just, it's a nightmare.
And I want to jump on that too, because we're as frustrated as anyone else is for some of these, and these are opportunities when we might need your help to start talking to the folks who can make a difference, you know, even though it's on the federal level or those other agencies. You know, we'll keep sending letters, we'll be making calls too, but, you know, if the chamber or someone else, you know, EDC and others, we all have kind of a united voice saying, why is this thing taking 4 years? So again, some of these are a decade to 4 years. It's outrageous, so we'd love to talk to you more about more of a unified voice.
We thought we were ready on the third cliff seawalls, and all of a sudden an agency raised their hand and said, you have to do a microalgae study. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? So now we're held up again, and fisheries tells you to do one thing, CZM says do sand, Fish and Wildlife says you can't put sand there, that's a habitat. You guys just get together, and we did have a big meeting with all of them in December. Here's the path forward. Then they had a meeting in January, so here's some other stuff we want you to do. Come on.
Yeah.
So, long story, we hope to be appropriating funds next year to start work, but it's going to depend on the permit process.
I think we have a question over there.
What would happen if you just tore the building down and kept it as a parking lot, since we don't have enough parking in the town as it is? As opposed to all the planning that's been going on for the last 15 years for this project. What are the chances that this project could have stopped and just made this, tear the building down, make this thing into a nice parking lot?
I mean, the ultimate, excuse me, the ultimate decision on whether the project goes forward is town meetings, because they have to vote to fund it. If town meetings vote to fund it, then we'll have to come back and figure out something else. You would run into permitting issues again. You just tore this down and paved it, because now you're adding impervious surface to a piece of land that's subject to flooding. But that's ultimately up to town meeting.
So is that all CPC funds?
Yeah, that'll be our CPC funds and state and federal grants.
Go ahead.
Going back to water.
I'm not answering your
treatment
questions.
plant, are we looking for more water supply anywhere?
Yes, we actually have a project going on now where Peter Dillon, who's a hydrogeologist, you know Peter? Peter's doing well searches throughout the town, looking for places that would have water, would have good water. So far, we haven't come up with a lot, but what the new water treatment plant is gonna let us do. So our current water treatment plant has one train, one sand filter, one charcoal filter, one of everything. The only time we can fix that is end of December, beginning of February. We shut the plant down because we're not using enough water that we need to run the plant. So we just rely on our wells. But we have plenty of water in January, December because the reservoir's overflowing, right? So the new plant will have multiple trains. We can run the water treatment plant in the winter, while at the same time we're making maintenance and repairs to it. Shut down the wells, let them recharge in the winter instead of using them all winter to provide water. So that's going to be a big help to us, that we'll be able to better manage the water that we do have.
Okay. Going back on the 25, here's another interesting fact. 25 years ago to today, we're actually using 100 million fewer gallons of water than we did. Now, part of that is because of all the work and some of the issues, some of the problems were these old pipes and other holes, and there's massive leaks. So even given all the construction and everything else, we're actually using, and that's a huge reduction in our usage, and never mind the efficiency. So that's given us some breathing room.
To give you an idea of the permitting, we took out the greens, the sand filter in the water treatment plant, we had to replace it. We're ready to put the plant online, we got to call up the state. We want you to do this testing. Okay, I'm just going to tell you, if I have to do that testing, I can't turn the plant on If I can't turn the plant on, then basically I'm gonna run out of water in 24 hours. We'll get back to you. And they called it out later, said, yeah, you can turn the plant on, don't worry, you don't have to do it. I'm like, okay. You know, it's a real complicated system. If we have a fire, we have to call the water department has to come in and turn the plant on to make sure we're producing enough water to deal with the fire. With the new plant, a lot of that will be handled because it'll actually be a modern plant that will do what we need to do.
I just had kind of a silly question because of all the important things you've been talking about, but beach access and Sand Hills, with the access points that we have, is there an efficient way to make them a little bit more friendly? I sometimes see older people trying to get through down to the beach, and I don't know if there's anything that can be done about that, what your thoughts are on that.
I mean, the one on Oceanside, we're out there probably a couple times a year after a king tide.
Yeah.
Because it washes out. There's not a lot we can do that'll be a permanent fix that the state would let us do. In terms of the parking lot, we could probably put some Moby mats. But again, before I got there, they wanted to make a parking lot there. And Conservation's like, no.
Oh, the one on Ocean?
You're not gonna pay the
Kenneth
other
Street,
one,
yeah.
big one on Oceanside, yeah. So, we struggle to keep up with the ocean on some of these.
Sure. And we talked even just about putting sand on the other side, because some of it's like a rocky, I live kind of near there.
Yeah.
And even the permit just put sand, I mean, talk about how asinine, there's sand on one side, but put sand on the other side, the state's like, no, it'll give you some trouble there, so.
So we did the sand nourishment at Minot. The sand's there,
Yeah.
right? It just washed off the beach. We had to go to New Hampshire to get the sand. When we did the Egypt Beach, the Musquashkett Berm project,
Yeah.
literally the rocks are right there.
Yeah.
Just pull them up. Nope, that rocks came from 3 hours away.
Yeah, no one likes
Couldn't
those
take the
rocks
rocks.
either. Those rocks are awful.
That's
Yeah.
but I'm literally going to the sand, I'm like, they're right there. I can just scoop them up and put them back on top. Nope.
Can you share information about the seawall project at the end of Marion Road where I live?
No, it's a secret. Which one's that? Sorry.
Marion Road in Sand Hills. It's the one next to the B&B with the tower on the top.
22 to 12 Oceanside Drive, that's the one we're doing now.
Okay.
That's a complete replacement of the seawall, similar to what was done further north. So they'll cut pieces out. We're going 4 feet deeper, 2 feet taller, from where the seawall ends at the open space to the beach entrance. That's our next project.
Oh, I think, I'm not sure we're talking about the same spot, because I believe our seawall was replaced 3 years ago. So it's,
We're a little further down, that's what
yeah, it's, you know, the big huge house fire that was right.
Okay, yeah.
So it's the property next to that.
Big
Kenneth Street.
big open
between
space.
Kenneth and Marion.
Kenneth, Marion, and 11th, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think we have a project going on there.
So they took a section, it's where the Sand Hills Beach sign is painted on the seawall. So they took a section of the entrance wall out, and there's a temporary
Bars
fence there right now, and it looks like they are doing some repair work, or maybe they're adjusting the shape of the opening.
The Kenneth Street open.
That's,
Oh, that's the repair, I think it's just,
that's
just
where
a
they had that
repair.
big metal railing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So-
Correct.
So they had to cut that open to get out to repair the seawall further down. We had a,
Oh,
seawall was undermined,
okay.
and the resident called us and said, my deck just dropped 2 feet.
Oh,
Because
oh my goodness.
everything was coming out, which is why we go 4 feet deeper when we do a new seawall.
Right.
So in order to get out there with what we call the armor stones, they had to cut that open,
Wow.
get the trucks out, and now the metal railing is to help people get down there.
Right.
That's one of the ones that we wait for the conservation agent to go on vacation, and then we go and dump stone and rocks to make it easy. So
That's the
it's
one
one we need to
the
keep
one
an
I
eye
always
on.
call on.
Yeah, the ocean always
Jim, this
wins
is
on
being
that.
recorded, by the way. Just so you know.
No one watches that.
And then we get to, yeah.
Yep, Ann, go ahead.
All right, Ann Burbine, Planning Board. As far as permitting is concerned, anything through Mass Highway, from design to completion, takes a minimum of 20 years. And that's the way it is. As far as traffic is concerned, planning board works really hard to ensure through studies and what have you, and I'm glad to hear that we're going to fund a traffic engineer to figure it all out. As far as parking is concerned, once upon a time I was on the parking study for the harbor 1,000 years ago. Believe it or not, people, there's plenty of parking. And one of the reasons that somebody was upset and said there was no parking, they wanted to go to CVS and they could not park in front of the store. So one of the things we have to understand, are we doing a lot of this for the residents, or are we doing it to bring in people from outside? I don't want to use the word tourist, it's kind of a dirty word. So people from outside to spend money here. And as someone from Duxbury said, what you want is to have it filled. So people are running around, it becomes popular, and it works. The other thing you have to think about that's happening in this town are accessory dwelling units, which was legislation that was passed. We just did the zoning at the last town meeting, and it opens a whole can of worms, because our zoning for affordable units, ADUs, was great. We had one of the best in the state, and it had to be owner occupied in one of the two. Now, it just has to be owned by someone, and it can be occupied by other people. So we have that, and it is also a matter of right. They will come before the planning board, moaning and groaning, but we will deal with it. So, and as far as this is concerned, I believe they're on the planning board agenda for this coming week from today, the 22nd. So there's a lot going on. And a lot of it too is, it's my understanding that the medical building at the Rotary is back up for sale. So it's all interesting, and it does have to do with interest rates. A lot of people are sitting on things. Aaron Cutler bought the old Hingham Institute, where the collective is in North Situate. He bought Jamie's. He's waiting. A lot of people are waiting. But I will also tell you that the planning board has been so proactive over the last dozen years. The zoning, for all intents and purposes, for North Situate and for Greenbush is in place, so that it won't be a free-for-all when sewer finally comes to North Situate. So,
Just to give you an idea how the state thinks, if you've been up 3-8, there's a project from Henry Turner Bailey to Beechwood in Cohasset. Traffic light at Henry Turner Bailey, that'll be a good thing. They're going to widen the road, they're going to put in a turning lane, they're going to put in bicycle lanes and pedestrian access. So we met with them because they're coming into Scituate, and they're like, yeah, we're going to bike lanes. What happens when they get to Scituate?
they fall off.
What do you mean? I'm like, well, they're going to be riding down the bike lane, and then they're going to get to Scituate. What happens? There's no bike lane. Oh, yeah. But there's going to be a bike lane. I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, you know, it's like, but that project was 20 years.
Yep.
Permitting and funding. So, but that, I think the light there will help Booth Hill, and then we'll start looking at man lot of how we can do that.
Jim, could I ask about, I know there's been a lot of work done on the coastal resiliency thing, and a lot of the harbor businesses are worried about, you know, the tide and their cars being lost and residents and all that kind of stuff. I also know that it was a big number when we talked about, when they talked about what needs to be done. Can you elaborate at all on that?
What I would probably tell you is they have Corey, our coastal resource officer, come to a future meeting, but that project's going to be broken into short-term and long-term. So there's a couple places, like right behind the Coast Guard building, or I keep saying to the DPW, just put like 4 inches of concrete so it keeps it up. Replacing those catch basins that flood every time we have a high tide. So those would be short-term. The long-term, you probably need to have a Corey come, and that's her bailiwick. But it is a lot of work. It encompasses the whole harbor. It goes all the way around to Edward Foster.
Yeah.
Try to figure out how we're going to water out of the harbor. We get out of every storm and I stand there and watch it come up with them. Watching it, and then it gets close to Front Street, we have to close Front Street, because once it gets on Front Street, cars send it flying into the building, so, not as up and down as I should be, but Corey will.
Yeah, and some of it is kind of less expensive. I mean,
Yeah.
there's like even just vegetation, and so well, how's that going to really work? And she's, no, here's the science behind it. That's much less expensive on that other side that you by the bridge that'll help contain some of that water that comes in. That
And
we
there's
can
also
do.
some private ownership that's a challenge, that you
That's-
wouldn't be able to complete, like, say, to here. Right.
Right, there's a lot of
it's
private
yeah.
ownership around the
Yeah.
corner
Yeah.
there.
Right, but yeah, she's working through that.
Right.
I think there's more willingness than in other spots to make sure that it's fixed.
Thank you. And, I don't know if this is a concern of anyone else, but
Did you raise your hand?
I did 10 minutes ago. Denise and I have been fortunate to be able to travel around a lot of the coastal communities up and down the East Coast. And we have probably what I think is one of the more beautiful harbors in the East Coast. But when I drive down Front Street, all I see are telephone poles and power stations mounted on poles. I don't know, some people may remember, I think 20, 25 years ago, I think it was the chamber kind of helped to sponsor an effort to maybe get underground utilities put on Front Street. Right now, I think Front Street looks like something out of the 1950s. Now, the buildings are well kept and nice, but it is not appropriate, I don't think, in a coastal community with winds blowing at 50, 60 miles an hour. You know, I had my business in the office for 45 years. I can't tell you how many times we lost power. And I would have to think that if power lines were underground along Front Street, that would solve a lot of the power issues. Now, I don't know if Jim has any insight as to what, you know, who would bear the cost of that.
2.5, right? We looked into this. It was 2.1,
I
2.5?
mean, 10 years ago, it was $1 million a mile to put wires underground, and the town pays for it.
Yeah.
The utilities don't pay for that.
Uh-huh.
And that's just to put the wires underground, then each business and home has to pay for their own connection in. A problem with underground utilities, when they do break, you don't know where the break is. And I'm not sure putting utilities underground in an area that floods would be a great idea. I mean, I'd be concerned that they're just short out and flood out, but
Yeah. Well, it seems
it's
like
very, very expensive to do.
Yeah, it seems like other coastal communities have been able to jump to that hoop. I'm not sure how, but my other issue is a lot of the water that comes into the harbor on a king tide and a flood isn't coming from the harbor. It's coming from manhole covers on Front Street, and they're like geysers when the tide gets up to a certain level. You know, because is the harbor water, not the harbor, the
Street
street
drains
water
go to the harbor,
goes
yes.
out to the harbor.
Yeah.
So obviously isn't there supposed to be some sort of a gate or something to prevent
Yeah,
the backflow?
they do a
coming-
gate on what's called an elephant trunk, which is like a hose that opens and closes.
Yeah,
We do have some plans for that, but they have to dovetail into the bigger plan. So once we get to the point where we know what we're doing for the whole
yeah.
resiliency, those are the short-term things I talked about. We will go in and replace those, but we have to make sure we still have the outfalls. What are we doing in Cole Parkway, because that's where the big catch basins are that flood.
Mhm.
We're not gonna replace those, then have the plan come in and say, this is gonna be an island as opposed to.
Yeah.
So we're just waiting to put those two things together, so we're not
Okay.
working against ourselves.
There is one right next to my office and my former office and the bank, and it's like, you know,
Get some certain.
old faithful,
Yeah.
whenever there's a storm. The
Yeah, first it
the
goes
water
up
comes
Cole
up,
Parkway,
the
then-
water comes up like that within minutes. We have water at our door.
The other issue with that, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of digging. When we paved Front Street, some of the business owners were, well, can't you pave them between 2 and 3 o'clock on Tuesdays only in the morning? Like, no, we're gonna pave it, so it gets very disruptive, but DPW has some plans, but they're waiting to make sure it ties into the bigger resiliency plan.
Okay, thank you.
I was, sorry, did you go, someone? Sorry.
You definitely did raise your hand.
You saw me.
I
A
saw.
while ago.
It was a tiny one.
It was delayed.
It'll be a quick question, I think. I was talking with a business owner down on Cole Parkway, and she was mentioning how frustrating it is that Cole Parkway doesn't have lights in the parking lot. I don't know, I'm not a business owner down there, and we don't go there late enough to know, but I wanted to bring that up. I'm not sure, are there, it looked like she was saying that at night, there's, I guess, large parking lights in the parking lot over by the Mill Wharf, but the Cole Parkway parking lot.
It's pretty dark.
I mean, there are lights, but there aren't lights, well, it's not like a parking lot at the mall.
Okay, and anyways, it's parking lot lights, they were wondering, and in talking with business owners, that was a question I received. So, I wish I could dive into it deeper, but they were concerned that it is quite dark for parking.
Yeah, not a lot of lights down there. We, again, wouldn't do anything until we had that resiliency study. But there are lights there, but it's not like going to the mall where the parking lot's
Right.
lit up.
They should be solar lights in there when they do whatever they do. Solar lights would be great.
Yeah, they tend to break.
Okay.
Yeah, they're not real. You know, we switched everything to LED, right? And so all our traffic lights are LED now. When the wind blows, the snow packs in, the old lights would melt the snow. The LED lights don't heat up, so now you gotta send someone out to kind of knock on the fixture to get the snow out. So there's pluses and minuses, but I have solar lights outside and they work great. Then you get a storm or something else and they don't work anymore.
It's also, it's the first time I've heard someone even bring that up. Or
Yeah.
Is it Susan?
I've happened to notice it because I have kids and they like run out and it's dark.
It's very
But,
dark.
It's
Yeah,
darker,
it's
it's definitely
yeah,
darker, but you'd want to also balance the, you know, too much light right on the harbor so they don't want to see the harbor, so.
But they've all,
But
every.
I do think we could look into that.
But they've always said it's when
Yeah.
they redo Cole Parkway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You know, there's no need to do it now. They were changing it.
Yeah, we're not gonna spend a lot of money doing stuff that might be torn up and moved later. We're trying to be.
unless it's like bulbs out, I mean, we could just.
So the project out here, we were getting ready to pave Jericho when the gas company came in, so we wanted to replace this water line, gas line. So the gas company's paying half the cost of paving it. So they give us a check, so instead of us paving the whole thing on our dime, they're gonna pay for half of it. So Treasurer's sorry, probably won't get paved until next spring.
You know what, talk to Linda, I'm fine with it. She's like, they're digging it up again.
All right, want to go back to your question right there in the middle?
So, Andrew, you mentioned that when you did your comparisons, which, thank you, it's pretty eye-opening, that state local aid was under 3%. Sounds like they give us a lot of restrictions for that lousy 3%. So I'm just curious to know how much, if you did a comparison, and it's probably not a fair question to put you on the spot, or all of you, what do we get for federal aid? You know, do we get enough? And the grants that come into the town, are they mostly federal? Are they state? And do we qualify? As I heard you say, we're an affluent town.
I mean, I would say the vast majority on the federal side typically goes to the school,
Okay.
the school side, and actually on the state aid as well. I was talking more about the unrestricted that would go to on the town side. So I would say more than half of the federal that we've gotten goes to.
Yeah, most of the what do you call regular recurring grants go to the schools.
Maybe not anymore, given the state of the
Maybe not anymore.
education.
Federal money would be mostly seawalls, harbor, things like that.
Okay,
So the Oceanside seawall replacement project, we're just doing repairs now.
yeah.
Senator Markey and Senator Warren got us a $5 million direct appropriation for that. So that's a lot of federal and state money. And then we apply for a lot of the grants. Again, we're in 3A compliant, which is the MBTA. When we did the Cedar Point sewer, we got $2.3 million from the state on that. Most of we got to apply for, but we're very active in applying for those.
And that's part of the double squeeze, right? So I mean, even if there's, the federal government gives up on special education grant funding,
Yeah.
I don't think we're gonna let those
Okay.
kids,
Yeah.
but that's gonna eat up into another, you know, just
Something else.
something else has to
Exactly.
go.
There's only
So-
so much in the pie, and you can only cut it so many ways.
Right, so.
Okay.
Barry, did you want to add something?
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate bringing up these federal funding streams, and I may have missed that I showed up late. Speaking of education, kids.
Traffic.
It was the traffic. It
Flooding,
was the
traffic,
light,
kids.
I'm telling you. No. I was wondering if there are any concerns or if the town has identified any federal funding streams that are at threat. We're seeing right now the Inflation Reduction Act, already appropriated funds are being pulled back. I know that, or I notice all the time the sign next to the water treatment plant says that this is the Infrastructure Act funds that are supporting it. Are there any concerns that there are large projects within town outside of the whatever's going on with education that might be putting future funding streams and things that we feel are, or we think are already secured at threat at the moment, and what can we do about that?
Future funding streams, absolutely. BRIC, which is one of the projects that we use to fund coastal resiliency, the administration is doing away with BRIC funding. They've rescinded billions of BRIC funding. So yeah, going forward, we're very concerned with our COVID funds. They're all spent. We spent those in a timely manner. APA funds are not quite all spent, but we have signed contracts. And we do have one BRIC grant that FEMA's told us, you're good, you're gonna get that money, it's already all encumbered. So for what we have, we feel like we're okay. Going forward, who knows, right? Everything going forward is questionable.
But projects that currently going on right now, you're coming.
Yeah, COVID spent, APA's all encumbered, ready to go. If we haven't even spent it yet, that's all going towards the water treatment plant, and we're spending that first. So I don't know if we're quite at $5 million yet, but a lot of that's already been spent, so we feel pretty good about that.
I should say way to go, by the way, on the COVID funding, spending on, instead of continuing items that have sustainability concerns. I feel like Scituate really shown on that. That was hard to do.
Spent a lot of money on HVAC in all the buildings. The school HVAC was probably the best it's ever been when we finished COVID, because we went through all those to make sure they're all working right. Everything was done the way it was supposed to. And unlike some other towns, we didn't hire 10 people during COVID. We didn't bring people in the COVID funds. So, yeah, we spent that money hard. The feds give you money spent.
Yeah, for the known unknowns, which is what you're asking for, to me, I already mentioned it, but the known unknown would be the special ed, which I think I'm most worried about. Because that seems that that's definitely in the crosshairs. We're going to let those kids.
I know that select board is changing over, but there's also the enforcement function of the Department of Education that is, it's not just funding, it's less enforcement, right? Is there a commitment from the town to make sure that all current special ed requirements are upheld going forward, even if the federal government is not going to sort of be the teeth behind that?
Well, the federal government,
I can maybe answer that as a school committee member. I think that, well, definitely from our perspective as school committee, but I actually also totally think that our state will continue to enforce all of the special ed laws and the civil rights stuff. Right now, that comes from the federal government, but the states do a lot of the enforcement. And so I think that Massachusetts, I would be very, very, very surprised if Massachusetts walked back any of those commitments. So I actually think we're going to be fine.
and the state has actually a higher threshold. They're more supportive, I'm trying to think of the right word, but the state requirements for SPED are better, I guess, for lack of, than the feds. So we come out of the state requirements, and as she said, I don't see the state walking those back. I'm hoping if the Fed walks it back, the state's gonna kick in and make up the difference, but they have the same issues we are. You can only slice that pie so many ways, and when someone gets a bigger slice, someone else is getting a smaller slice.
The domino effect.
Relatively speaking, this should be a minor issue, but I hear from a lot of people that the CVS building is so ugly and it takes up a big, I mean, for short money, they could change that facade, just put a different color awnings on. I go to Lexington and it's beautiful because in that town, they said this is a historic town, it's a tourist town. We don't want this blight, it's pretty ugly. I would think one letter to them would be, update the place.
Susan will take this one.
Okay, go ahead.
Does the town have any control or input into how the
I
harbor
mean, I
looks?
think it's like a slippery slope, like, we don't wanna dictate people's menus for the restaurants either. I mean, we get plenty of questions, like,
Yeah,
you know, like,
How involved?
Yeah.
how involved are you, and then let businesses do.
The issue I'm
Be
concerned about,
successful.
I will say, well, I will say this, so
Yeah.
we did this year do an abandoned building for residential. And there is, I think, some support to do abandoned building or the broken glass issues that may happen for commercial as well. Now, is that the CVS issue? No, because again, it's a private building.
No, but I'm not suggesting that it be mandated or that there be some dictate. It's just simply, you know, we have a beautiful town here, we'd appreciate it if you updated your building.
Make it look
Maybe
more,
they-
make it look more New England, kind of,
Yeah, maybe they say no, well, on the other hand, maybe
Yeah.
they.
Maybe a
yeah,
letter
it's
from
a good
the
idea.
EDC.
my
Chamber
concern with
can touch base.
CVS,
Chamber letter.
Yes, we can try to
CVS
touch base with them.
CVS is closing stores
Yeah.
all over the place.
Mm.
And that CVS brings a lot of people to the harbor, so I'm concerned about that staying open at this point, because it's so much smaller than a normal CVS. But, I mean, we could send them a letter, just hope they go, we have a store in Scituate. Really?"
I am just thinking,
Yeah.
from a cosmetic standpoint,
Yeah.
what is it? You know, it costs them a couple grand, but who knows? But anyway, it's
No,
not
I
gonna be a
agree
life
with
and
you.
death.
I can see your point, for
You know,
sure.
it's a pretty good fraction of the town, you know.
A very
and,
loud color, which is
just by
red.
changing those awnings from that bright orange
Yeah.
to something a little bit
Some
more.
shingles on there or something,
I
yeah.
think one of the
Yeah,
big
just
questions
go
in the
for it.
harbor really is, what's gonna happen with the record store?
Yeah, right.
Some of the empty
Well,
space there on that, yeah.
I think you got an easier time with CVS than
Yeah.
Jerry's.
From what I understand, yeah. I think they're gonna- So, but he's closing up, what's he gonna do with that?
But the other thing I just want to add is thank you all for your service, and it's appreciated. It's a great town, and you do a great job.
Yes, yes. Oh, great.
Can
So,
I say something? Yeah,
Yes,
I
please.
just.
Yeah, we're getting toward the end, I mean, I know people have
Just-
to move on, but we definitely want to wrap it up and.
Yeah, no, mine's more of a wrap up too, because I
Sure.
really enjoyed the conversation and also ping pong, getting to sit here and watch you guys answer questions. But, and back to the email, right? Like we get 60 emails, you get 60 a day. But I will say, looking back, because, like, we've made changes, and I think important changes to the town because we got an email, right? Like, we have like 3 aquaculture businesses in town now because we got an email. We recently extended the boating season, and there's a shoulder season, so you're gonna see boats in the harbor earlier and later, more so in the fall, but because we got an email, right? And that all goes back to business, right? Like you may have charter boats that are extending their season because we got an email. So also the beach, like because we got an email, we changed the beaches to be between Labor Day or Memorial Day. Anyone can go park at the beaches. It's like, come to Scituate, enjoy our beaches. Also, because we got an email, we increased the beach sticker, the fines during the season because our residents couldn't attend the beaches, right? So we are very open to business, very open to suggestions. My day job is dealing with federal and state policy, and it's like mind-blowing. We will work with you through that, but there's some stuff we can just do, and we will do what we can do to support the businesses. Like I just saw Miss Emily food truck go by. Because we got an email, they're right at the pier, which is, they're the only ones at the pier, because we talked to local businesses and said, okay, they're okay to be there close to our business because we don't sell fish and chips. So because we got an email, it's like, bay to table or bay to food truck to eat your fish and chips. So I welcome, and I think the board welcomes your suggestions, or a phone call, an email or a phone call. So thank you for the participation, and thank you for your suggestions. And those are just a couple examples of probably the 60 emails we did something about, and I think made the town better.
Some.
We
We tried.
try when we can. I mean,
Yeah.
like we.
Yeah.
I like emails better, just because it helps me keep track. If you send me an email about a problem, probably within a day or two, you're gonna see myself and the DPW director drive down going, what is she talking about?
Yeah.
Because that's just the way I am, I'm a visual person. But, you know, usually, as I said, you'll get a response. Funny story, we had a whale wash up on a beach a couple years ago in Hammerock, and the woman sent an email, there's a beach, beach whale. So I look up, it's a private beach. So I get out with the DPW director, and I'm like, oh ma'am, it's a private beach, I can't do anything. It's not a private beach. It's not, no. So I can park here and sit on the beach? No. But it's not a private beach. So I tell you what, sign this waiver, I'll have the DPW come down, we'll dig a big hole, and we'll just bury the whale. I'm not gonna sign that. Okay, well, nice to see you. I started walking away, I said, where you going? I said, your beach, your whale. Sign in. So, that was kind of fun, actually. But again, our policy is you send an email, you get a response. Unfortunately, sometimes it's gonna be no. You know, my street getting paid this year? No. Is it gonna pay debit? Yeah, it's on the list. We'll tell you where it's on the list, but. So emails usually, because it's just easier, if you send an email that's about water, I can send it to the water department, and then I have a trail really to track to make sure that someone's got it back at some point.
Great, no, we appreciate your time. I mean, the Chamber of Commerce, our mission is obviously to support and celebrate local businesses, and we often have businesses asking us, you know, what can the Chamber do for us? And I think we work teamwork with the town, obviously, and that's why we'd love to do more events like this, and really, I think the key message, as you said, to all your points is communication and just I mean, this event itself happened because Greg reached out and mentioned he loved the State of the Town events. So I think communication is maybe the big takeaway from today, of just all keeping in touch. Businesses can keep in touch with the Chamber, we'll keep in touch with the town, we'll put on more events like this, and just everyone can kind of stay informed and stay on the same page with some of the initiatives here in town. So we really appreciate your time.
Happy to send department heads down if you have a particular topic you want to talk about, please find DPW, that's resiliency. Happy to make them available for the Chamber event.
It's great. I mean, we, as a Chamber, we do some social events, you know, spring social, fall social, but at the end of the day, we really want to support businesses with real logistical help. And so, right, if we have events that anyone's asking for with more specific department heads and things like that, we can put that on as well.
That's something to say, I think we should mention too, as a Chamber, we're striving more to feature your businesses, so please email us if you're celebrating something, if you want us to come out and feature a grand opening, or if you know a business that's opening, please just email. We love to do it. We just don't know what's going on sometimes, so, and what's going on in your head. So please feel free to reach us.
And if you have events, you know, we do our weekly updates with a fan base of dozens. But if you have big events, we will.
It's 100.
100? Oh.
Hundreds of views. It's
Triple digits.
Well, when I do it, it is. I can't.
The next big one, of course, like we said, next Thursday, a week from Thursday, so the candidates forum will be 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. at the PAC, I'm hearing it's called, the Performing Arts Center at the Scituate High School. So we hope to see a lot of you there. A night event as opposed to early morning, but we appreciate everyone coming early. Karen, did you have anything you wanted to add? I saw your hand up.
I would just note before the candidates forum at 6:15, like something like 10, I think it's 15 or 20 organizations are going to have information tables. So if you are interested in knowing about all the different folks working around town on things that they think are important, there'll be an opportunity to learn from them before the forum. And
just some nonprofit organizations in town.
Nonprofits, boards and committees. Barry's been helping EDCs doing outreach to make sure. So if you know an organization, the food pantry will be there, the library will be there, St. Luke's will be there, the all-night grad program will be there, and a host of others. So that'll be a really good opportunity to just sort of sample some of the stuff that you don't even know that's going on around town that maybe you're interested in getting involved with.
Yeah, so the forum will be emceed by Bob Chesia, and then, yeah, so show up early and you can see some of these nonprofit tables beforehand. But yeah, I think there's plenty of food and coffee still, so take something on the way out for sure. Again, thank you, Greg and Morse Engineering, for that. And I think that's a great event, so thank you all for coming. And